tonight, my goal is to work on a frame that I haven't actually sanded yet, and I think you may have saw a picture of it, but I've got this blue frame, and it's got really nice decorative elements. It started out silver, and so all I did was paint it blue. Basic, probably royal blue, but blue is actually quite popular. You know, I do plenty of furniture in blue, and never ever a problem selling it. But I demonstrated the other day, and again, I didn't get to record, get to keep that one, but I demonstrated the other day about glazing and actually mix my own color of glaze. So what I want to do is do my glaze. It's an antique brown because I really want it to be dark, and I want it to be classy in a way, and I want it to be antique. So I'm going to do that on this frame. I think I only painted one coat, because the more coats you put on, you chalk paint something, the harder it is going to be distressed. But if you don't want any of the original color showing through, you're going to put more on one coat. But in this case, I want it to look like someone didn't do a good job painting it, make it look old. So I'm going to adjust my camera and then show you the steps to antique a frame. And I've got plenty of room to make a mess if I have to. I actually put a couple pieces of wood underneath to keep it off the fabric, but pretty much whatever works for you to help that. And I'm going to try, and I may not distress the back tonight, but it could use a little bit of work. I'm going to use a glaze that you can get at Michael's, but it really doesn't matter where you get your antique glaze. It kind of all works the same way for the most part. I like the bottles that have the wide mouth because it's easier to get a brush in there. And usually I'm not going to use my nice brushes when I'm trying to push paint into something and I'm going to wipe it off, so don't feel like you have to use a really super brush here. In fact, I think this is the one I used last time too. This is a Purdy brush that's seen its day. It's got a lot of top coat in it. Hasn't been treated right, but sometimes the nice thing about it, it's really nice and stiff, so it's almost like a chalk paint brush. So, like I said, the glazing, this is something you can get at, I believe I get this at Michael's. Hobby Lobby probably has it. And I've used multiple brands of this. And so anyways, we want it to be dark and old. So let me get started on here. And the goal here is just get it in there. And I'll probably do one end, one side at a time, because it does want to start drying. It's not going to dry right away, but I want to be able to wipe it off quickly. So I'm pushing this paint in here. That's one reason I'm using a brush that's kind of seen its day, because one, it's stiff, and I am not just going to destroy bristles. And I don't really keep certain brushes for glazing and certain brushes for paint. In my opinion, as long as you clean it really good, do whatever you want. But I guess that's not true. I have some brushes that I try to keep nice for more finishing top coat. Like I would never use this one on top coat. It's too rough. Some bristles are just not made for top coat and more of a stiffer application. So you can see now, first step, it's ready to go. Now it's just time to wipe it off. I mentioned last time that gloves are nice, but that's optional. If you're doing a lot of glazing, I probably would wear gloves. You may not see the purpose of gloves starting out, but by the time this glaze starts drying on your hands, and I'm sure for ladies, your nails, you'll appreciate gloves. I was thinking to use a little glazing on your fingernails. So this is just one way to antique. Now, one of the things you'll see here is how the color is starting to look old. And if it's not turning out the way you want, there's other measures. So I can come back and dry brush this and put even darker color in there. But if you're gonna do that, I would have done it before the glaze. I usually do the glaze last. Don't wipe too hard into the grooves because you'll start taking the glaze out and then you're back to blue. So I try not to get too scientific with this of how much to wipe off, just wipe to your heart's content. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out is that this is actually a silver frame. So, not sure you can see it, but I'm going to wipe it a little harder because I actually want some of that silver to come out. I'm trying to get a good angle here for you, and this is, I could get this by letting all this dry and then coming back and sanding, but this is wet. I guess you call it wet sandy. But I would rather do this way because then I don't have to take it outside or to the garage, and I can get, but I want some of that gold, that silver showing. Do you see it? Right there showing, right there. Because I want multiple layers here. I want the original, I want the blue, I want the antiquing. I've done it where I've also even come back with metallic, like a metallic acrylic paint, and dry brushed a different metallic on there. A really cool thing to do this with is small frames. If I were to talk to somebody who's new at, let's look at this here. You can see right there, I'm going to start rubbing on the edge of this and start getting some more of that silver to show. Just adding a little bit of pressure and get that. What I was going to say is frames are a really great place to start out and practice chalk painting, glazing, and other techniques, because you're not really going to mess up a multi-$100 piece of furniture making mistakes. So I've cut my teeth plenty on frames. You can go to Goodwill and buy frames by the dollar, small ones, and just chalk paint them. Makes good gifts, and you know, maybe make every frame. I really like to let the frame do the talking as far as color and style. Like I'm not going to antique glaze this one. I want this pink frame to be light and clean. So antique works really well on darker colors. What I could also do is I could take a frame like this one I showed earlier, and I can do a white glaze, a light glaze, and let the whites pop out, like, and let some of this texture come out. But this really wouldn't take too long. As you can tell, I'm doing more talking and less demonstrating, or less painting and distressing, but that's what demos videos are about. And, now, one of the things to keep in mind in this process is that you're just going to have to trust to a certain degree how it looks, because the next thing that will affect the finished outcome of this frame would be the top coat. And that's going to really unify all the colors, make everything equally the same all shiny or all matte, that kind of thing. But right now, the glaze and the paint, you're not going to see that till you put your top coat. Now, you got to make that choice really about, do you want it shiny or do you want it matte? I like, anytime I'm doing chalk paint, my usually go-to finish is matte. But some pieces need that gloss look, but it's rare that I do anything. Probably the most sheen I'll put on something is a satin, but I don't carry too much of that. And kind of feel bad about covering something up and then wiping it all off, but that's just how it works. And I could probably put less glaze on this, but I'm not using a whole lot of it. It just looks that way. So, as I mentioned before, wipe off as much as you want or are comfortable with. And I'm just using a damp rag Wrung out most of the water. You just need it wet. You could probably do it with a dry rag. It's gonna get sticky and weird, and a dry rag also would not let me distress it. And right now that's what I'm doing. I'm going back, hitting some of the highlights, getting a little bit of that silver to show. If tomorrow or whenever I come back, it doesn't quite feel right, like the look, I need more, I can take a little bit of sandpaper at that point, or even try to wet distress it, whatever gets that look you need. And one of the things to keep in mind is try to be somewhat consistent, meaning don't get carried away on one side and it looks awkwardly different. So we've got 3 sides down, and we're on to the last one. So that's about as antique that I'm going to go tonight. Like I said, tomorrow I'll look at it. If it needs something else, I might come back either with a darker color, maybe bring out some more of the silver, and just kind of feel it out. But I think it feels like it's been around a lot longer than what it was. The next step would also be just to put a quick coat of glaze on the back, and I might even do that while I have everything out, because laying it down on its face isn't really going to mess up the front too much, and I can always go back and wipe it down. But since I have all this out, I'll just go ahead and put a coat of glaze. I'm not trying to, at this point, I'm not really bringing out any detail. I'm just trying to get the coloring all consistent with the front, because if I don't, the back's going to look fresh blue and the front will look like it's 100 years old, and that's not really. These frames and candlesticks and vases, all that kind of stuff's really fun to start on. I encourage you to try it out. Don't feel like you need to get the best brushes out there and best paints. Just get something to start with. See if you're still excited about it after you do the first couple pieces. You'll probably get addicted to it. Watch out. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to do it. Flip this back over. Make sure I don't need to touch anything else up. And I think that's it. So I hope you had a cool time tonight. Let me just show this one more time. So again, we're going for multiple tones, silver, blue, and the glaze. We'll let that dry. So thanks for joining me tonight, and hopefully that helped and you learned something. But have a good night.